panelist, what new technologies have you utilized in the past few years? And who wants to go first? Will? Since you're at the end of the table.
Okay, all right. Well, as far as new technologies, I mean, the last few years I've been working more with video content. As far as being a content developer, I work more on the user experience side of things. So as far as new tools, I mean, you use them all. I would say just, more and more of the emphasis with me is on video and somewhat, audio programming. But, that with technology sort of merging, TV, internet, phones, all sort of coming together, that's just more and more of what there's a call for.
So when you say video, you're talking web content, video, Facebook?
Well, content that works cross-platform.
Okay.
So yes to all that.
Okay. So what new technology can I use? I would say that the way I would want to start answering that question would be to talk about how that new technology has a little bit changed the way I work.
Okay.
So if I can answer it that way, that would be helpful. A few years back, I remember actually, I was just talking with Krista about this, flipping through a Rolodex to try and find the person that I wanted to talk to and picking up the phone and calling them. And I have a very distinct memory of the day that I got my first iPhone. And I'm one of those bad people who drops them, so this is my fourth one, but I'm not done yet. But I remember standing in the driveway going, oh my gosh, I can get my email on here. And it has completely changed the way that I work, because the beauty of it is that I can work anywhere. And the terrible part about it is that I can work anywhere, which you do. And so I think using whatever tools you have and seeing the data that you're using and the information that you're generating, be able to function across different platforms, whether it be your phone, whether it be a computer that you've got at work, whether it's a laptop or an iPad, something that you can carry with you. I think the technology that we have now makes our work more portable, and there are upsides to that and there are downsides to it. And I think that's part of what we should talk about a little bit today. But seeing how I can take it with me has really changed, and there are a number of different ways that I do that.
I will say that this isn't actually something technically web-based, but the neatest thing that we've gotten at the children's home is that we got a new phone system a couple years ago, and the phone system emails me my voicemails. Okay, so y'all may all be familiar with this, but this blew my mind. So what happens is when somebody leaves a message on my work phone, it sends me an email with a WAV file attached. And because I have a BlackBerry, I then get my emails on my BlackBerry. So basically, anybody that leaves a message at my office, in about 10 seconds, I have the voicemail on my BlackBerry. So that's been one of the really neat things that has helped my life a lot, is that it doesn't matter where I am, is that not only can I get my emails, but I can be getting my voicemails as well. So that's something that's changed my work day a little bit, is I don't even, if I'm out all day, I don't even have to check in on my voicemails because I've already heard them. An example of that is that yesterday I was out of the office all day, going from place to place to place. When I finally got back to my office at 6 o'clock, I had already responded to all of the voicemails that were sitting there blinking at me, and I had basically already dealt with every single email that was sitting in my inbox. So I was able to be in my office for 15 minutes and be able to leave for the gym on time. So it was a wonderful thing. So that's just one thing. The other thing that that we did this past year that was kind of something new is that we got a new logo, and we got it from the internet, basically. What we did is that the children's home is 138 years old, y'all, and we had never had a logo. So this is a big issue, and we've struggled with it for years. And we developed this branding committee on our board. We actually attempted to use a firm locally, so I don't want y'all to think that we didn't try to do that, because we did want to use somebody locally. But it wasn't really what we had hoped for, and we decided that after 138 years we weren't going to settle for something that we just did not absolutely love. And so one of our board members suggested that we put out what's called a request for intelligence, an RFI, on the internet. And it's basically like an RFP, but it's on the internet, it's request for intelligence, and we did it through a website that is it's called Genius Rocket. But it's basically a forum for graphic designers, and we put the RFI up on there with a prize, an award of $500. And you can put any prize amount you want, and the more money you offer, the more response you're going to get. But we put it up there for $500, and we got 150 submissions of logos. And some of them were horrendous, and I could have done them in Photoshop myself, and some of them were really, really good. Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't supposed to be talking about something up there. And so what we did is we narrowed it down to 3. Our branding committee narrowed it down to 3, and then took it to our full board. We voted on it, and now we have a logo that we all absolutely love. The winner actually lives in India. We don't know if it's male or female. We can't tell by the name, so I don't know whether to say he or she. We call him a he. But and all he did was email me the file, and we were able to manipulate the font and the colors and do what we wanted to do it to make it our own. And now we have our own our logo, and we spent $500 on it, which is very inexpensive. You could easily spend $5,000 to $10,000 for logo development, and so we spent $500 and got our choice of 150 options. So.
Excellent.
I have a couple perspectives. Being a professional producer of video, I can chime in about that, but also being an upstart nonprofit, I'm experiencing things from the other side for the first time in my life. It's been very interesting. But let me first say, the iPhone thing, I got dragged kicking and screaming into the iPhone world about, I'm a late arrival about 6 months ago because my wife has had it for over a year. And now I'm on the other side. There's no turning back, you know, and I love it when I have a down moment. I can just check my email, because I get about 100 emails a day, and now I'm beginning, you know, how can I ever go back to life without an iPhone, you know, and I find just even on a social level, if I find something funny going on, taking a picture and just emailing it to somebody, just right on the spot, it's just, I love that ability, and I'm usually not that spontaneous, but it's inspiring spontaneity in me. But 2 tools I recently discovered, you all might have already be using them. I work on a lot of projects that are involve many people and many people's busy schedules, and to me one of the most difficult things is getting everybody in the same room at the same time. So I'm just curious, how many people are using Google Calendar right now? Wow, I thought more of you might have been using that, so I'm glad I brought that up. Yeah. A little wonky to figure it out, just tough it out. After a few weeks, you'll understand how Google Calendar works. It's free. You just have to sign up for a Google account. And it really, the hardest part of Google Calendar is getting the other people to use it. Because you can send access privileges to whoever you designate. They, I believe, have to have a Google account, right? And if you could just get them to use it, it just cuts back so much on all the back and forth emails about, well, can you make it this day? Well, how about this day, but later on? You know all those emails you get just trying to schedule things? Google Calendar really helps with that. So just try to spread that around your offices. Try to get everybody to use Google Calendar when it involves group thinking and group projects. Would you concur, Helen? Do you guys use Google Calendar a lot?
Google Calendar, we use a lot of Google platforms, actually. One of the most important ones that we use is Google Docs. And I don't know if you use that one, so we can talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's very related. It's just you just post a document and you designate who has access to that. So I don't use that as much, but I know there's a lot of value to that as well. The other one I discovered, how many of you are using some kind of managed email system to send out your email blasts? Let me see, I'm curious. Well, as a nonprofit, I would think everybody should have that. I'm sure Constant Contact is probably what most of you are using. That's been around forever. But the one I discovered recently, and I like it because it's free, under 2,000 emails, and that's called MailChimp.
It's just our neighbor, it's right in Atlanta too. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't, yeah, MailChimp. If you have under 2,000 you're sending out to, it's free, and nonprofits, wow, we love free, don't we? So my little upstart nonprofit, that was sweet music to me. So I'm using MailChimp, and we're programming our database in MailChimp. I know eventually we're going to grow past 2,000, and they're going to stick me with some fee, but I'm not worried about that right now. By then, hopefully, we'll have some funding. But those are two tools that I've used in the last year that I really love.
Can I jump in on that
Yeah.
just real quick? I was going to say that online collaborative work is probably one of the most efficient ways to get things done for us. I can have a team go to work on a document and knock it out in about a quarter of the time that we used to. I went to a meeting recently with a group of people that I hadn't worked with before, and they brought physical documents to the table and passed them around, and everybody did editing, and then handed it back to somebody so that they could go input all of those different edits. Where when you're using Google Docs, it's a dynamic doc, so you can edit it at the same time you can see anybody else that's editing at the same time. So you can see the changes that are happening as they occur, and it really speeds up the process. Another way that we use Google Docs is actually for our team meetings, for our staff meetings. We keep a template in Google Docs that we cut and paste into every week, and then during the meeting, someone types notes into that template about what the updates are, what the reports are. So we have a running documentation, an institutional memory, if you will, of what happens during each meeting. And that allows us to go back and, if we need to, do accountability checks. Well, we said, well, this is going to be out the door by this time during this meeting. It's all right there. It also allows anyone who has something that they want to input into that agenda to do it, because they all have access to it. So if you want to talk about something in the team meeting, you can just put that in the template, and there it is. So it creates a different kind of conversation that's really nice. And if I can just say one more thing about that, another way that we're using Google Docs, it's not a perfect system, and I won't say that it is. I mean, I used it yesterday for something, and it was about as frustrating as Word for me in some ways, but it is also a really efficient system when you get it to work right. And we do a grant system, a grant process called Make Work, which you might be familiar with. This year we're going to be giving out $100,000 to artists and artisans within a 50-mile radius of Chattanooga. And adjudicating a process like that can be expensive. We know that, don't we, Krista? There are institutions and folks all over the country that want to sell you really fancy systems to do that. And Google works, because you can put everything in a spreadsheet, your jurors can log in, and they can adjudicate the process in a dynamic way that's confidential, and you haven't spent anything. So it lowers your administrative overhead significantly, and using online collaborative tools is probably one of the most healthy decisions you can make for your budget. If you go to mindmeister.com, it gives you an array of, I think, probably several hundred collaborative online tools that range from word processing to video chat, et cetera, et cetera. But and there's a particular
So M-I-N-E?
Mind, M-I-N-D, Meister, M-E-I-S-T-E-R. But there's an array on there that shows collaborative tools that's really spectacular. When you click on those, you can go into that particular platform and check it out and see. Not all of them are free, but many of them are, and they're all collaborative online tools. So it's just an interesting way to look at it.
Meister, not monster.
No,
Meister.
I was like, no, that's not it. right. But so that's just a couple things about online platforms that I think are cool. All right, I'll pull that up in a minute.
Helen, I had a question, if I may, about leading up to your meetings. You basically saying you have a real-time agenda the few days leading up to the meeting that everybody can just log in and just say, well, I want to talk about this. So basically, it's more democratic is what you're saying. People just can feel like it's not just one person's agenda.
Exactly. I mean, it creates a flatness in the organization that's really it does get rid of some of the hierarchy where someone says, this is what we're going to talk about, and then you have that terrible staff meeting where everybody sits there and doesn't say anything. So that's not what happens when you use that.
In the meeting itself, you have a secretary who's, or in a nonprofit, it would be the secretary of the board would sit there and take real-time minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
So you can see the data flow develop.
Thanks.
Let me go back to Dave's comment about the email thing. We actually did not have any sort of managed email service until a couple years ago, and we were nominated to get a free account from Emma, EMA, and Emma does email marketing. They're actually out of Nashville, and they have Emma's 25 every year, and they give away 25 free accounts. And we won one of those, so we also get free email marketing, and it's a really, really amazing program that I didn't think I would ever use, but now I use it all the time. You can set up different mailing lists for different fundraisers or different events or different groups of people, and it lets you go in and see how many clicks were made, and it charts them. And if you like numbers, it's really, really interesting too, because you can see which part people clicked on and how many people forwarded it, and it gives you the full functionality of the Emma service, but it's completely free, and that goes for nonprofits. It's only for nonprofits that can get it for free. So if you all are interested in doing something like that, look into being one of Emma's 25. And as long as you have one campaign, what they call them campaigns, you send out one email mass mailing a year, you continue to get it free every year. So hopefully we'll have that indefinitely. So.
All right, so what about online giving? Has anyone experienced anything new in that arena? Anyone use text to give, for instance?
I haven't used text, but another thing we get for free, I sound like we get everything for free here, but we have a Google grant, and so we can actually process credit card donations online for free through Google, so it's secure. It's just Google checkout, and they process everything for us for free. And we have, that's how we get the donate now button on our homepage. But the thing is, we actually use it for more. We don't get a whole lot of people that just go to our website, because our website is horrible, so don't even go and look at it, please. But we don't get a whole lot of people going to the donate now. But what we use it for is that we can process event tickets and sponsorships, the golf tournament we can put up there. Let's see, I log into mine, but it would show y'all everybody who's paid in there, and I don't think that's important. But
when you say free on the processing with that, like as
like
far
for
as
instance,
your credit card processing fees that
correct.
you normally have are no charge?
Right, and no charge at all. So like if somebody gives me a $100 donation, I get all $100 of it. Whereas if somebody calls me over the phone and wants me to take their credit card number, and I have to put it in our credit card thing at the children's home, then we get charged a fee on it. So when somebody calls me, I usually say, is there any way you can do this online? Because if I process it here, I get charged a fee. But if you do it through Google online, I get 100% of it, which is great, especially for larger donations. Sometimes people that want to make a larger donation on a credit card, I can just send them to the website. They can do it for free, and then we don't get any fee charged on that. But it lets me create custom shopping carts. So I can go in there and put, for instance, we have an event coming up on May 6th, so I can do an adult ticket, $35, a children's ticket, $15, a family package, $100, and then you can go in there and order your tickets, you can do sponsorships, you can do all that sort of thing, and it's all processed online.
So they do their ticket ordering through Google Checkout as well?
Yeah, it shows up on my website. I mean, it's, can we go to my, go to bunny-hawk.org. It shows up on my website, and then once you see it, you click checkout, and it takes you to Google, to the Google checkout. So you don't necessarily have to, you don't go to Google to do it, you go to my website. No, just go into the address bar and do.
Oh, okay. Here or?
No, like just www.
I'm sorry, I thought that's where it was. I realized that wasn't.
You said you got a grant for that?
Yeah, it's a Google grant, and we really didn't apply for it. They just kind of gave it to us, but it's been a long time ago. So I think now there's actually a way that you apply. Okay, so click on purchase tickets there. So basically, and scroll down just a little bit. So basically you can go here and just add something to your cart there, Sheila. Just pick something like you wanted to come to the bunny hop. And see, it shows up there in the top right, and you can just add, and then you just click on checkout, and it takes you to the Google website. It does the secure credit card checkout. So I never see people's credit card numbers or anything like that, and it's way more secure probably than it is for me to process it at my office.
And does it provide you a list of who's going to be attending?
I immediately, probably within 20 seconds, get an email saying so-and-so has made a purchase in Google Checkout, and you click here to go process the order, and then I go log into my Google account. It's a merchant account. It's a little different than my regular account. It's a merchant account, and it shows me who's charged, and I can process the order. It's even if you're actually, there's a way that you can tell it that you ship the order. Like I don't actually ship tickets, but if I were doing that, it's a way that I could keep track of whether or not I had shipped whatever they ordered. And then it also, here's the other neat thing about it, it lets me send email invoices. So if I have an event, for instance, a silent auction, and so-and-so wasn't there, and let's say Shannon was there and she bought something at a silent auction, and I know her email address, I would go into my Google account, put her email address in, and put the amount that I'm invoicing her for, let's say $100 for a gift certificate, and it would send it to her email and just say the Children's Home Chambliss Shelter has sent you an invoice, and it'll have a button that just says pay now, and she can click directly from her email, click the pay now. It'll take her to a similar Google checkout screen. She can just put her information in. If she already has an account, it would already be stored, and she would just have to click pay, and it would come directly to me. So that's the other neat thing, is that we've been able to expedite the payment of some of these things that we used to have to constantly be sending mail invoices for. Now we're able to just send them email, and people can in less than a minute get it right back to me. So.
Sheila, I have one other thing I'd like to throw out. How many of you have heard of Kickstarter? Are you using it for anything? Can you show that, Sheila? This is a great thing that's relatively new. It's part of the whole crowdfunding movement. And where it specifically applies to me, that interests me the most about it, is it's a way to finance video projects. And I come from the perspective that you can't have enough video these days on the web, on your website. I think the days of a website without at least a 30-second video on it are kind of over. But funding video, especially professional video, can be a challenge for a nonprofit. Kickstarter, yes, they changed the homepage. It's like the last time I was there. But anyway, what this is you make a pitch. I think you have to, you go in there and there's some kind of online contract you sign, and you write up a pitch of what you're proposing to do, and you set what your funding amount goal is, and how many days you're setting as a goal to get that funding. And basically it can be brutal, because if you got 95% of your goal and you ran out of time, you don't get anything. It's zero. So you have to be very realistic about what you're asking for and the timeline. And I actually, just out of curiosity, I haven't actually used it yet for anything. I've tried to produce, to get funding through this method, but I did actually sign up for one of these projects to just, I thought it was cool, and some filmmakers in Nashville were trying to make the very last Kodachrome movie, because Kodak announced by the end of the year last year they were going to never make any more Kodachrome or process it anymore. So these guys in Nashville said, we're going to make the world's last Kodachrome movie. They travel around the country doing it. I thought, what a neat project. I can afford $10. So I did the online $10 contribution, and I was listed as an executive producer along with 300 other people. But I'll tell you, it was only a week, and they were a $20,000 goal, I think. It was a week out, and they only had raised half, and I just thought, boy, these guys aren't going to make it. Somehow they did, and maybe they got some big people to write big checks there at the end, but they did, and they made the film, and I get email updates about once a month from them about the progress of the film. So I think it's a really awesome concept. I'd love to see this grow. There are a few other websites that have sprung up that have a similar thing, but if you have a passion or an interest in anything, you know, you're going to go to this website perhaps to see if somebody's trying to make a film about that, because film could just reach people in ways emotionally that maybe the printed word can't, or in ways that just a web page can't that doesn't have video on it. So that is the true power of video. It's the power to reach out and touch us emotionally. So I really love the Kickstarter things. I would throw it out to you guys to consider that as a way to maybe finance a video project that you think might help get your mission out there to a broader audience.
And since we're on the subject of video, why don't you talk a little bit more about that? Are there any trends in terms of video? Shorter, longer?
Shorter.
Homemade? Yeah.
Yes, there are trends I've noticed, and shorter for sure. Would you concur, Will, with that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, what your audience is, but typically, yeah, stuff on the web is short.
And I'm afraid a lot of it is just people's attention span. I know personally when I'm not going to sit at my desktop computer and watch a 10-minute video. What I'll end up doing is bookmark the page if I'm really interested in it, but I almost never get around to watching that video. So, but I will watch something. I immediately look at what the length of the video is. If it's over 3 minutes, I have serious, I will not look at it. I just don't have time. But if it's less than 3 minutes, I'll sit there and watch it. And YouTube, of course, we all know about YouTube, right? How many of you know that YouTube is the #2 search engine? We all know Google's #1, right? YouTube is #2. So what does this tell us? It tells us that people don't just want text information about a subject. They want to see video attached to it. Let me tell you, there is a video about everything on YouTube. I was just reading an NPR article the other day, and I even posted it on Facebook, which is big for me because I never post anything on Facebook. But Will has convinced me I need to start doing that. About how these people who've made a lot of money with the most ridiculous videos, and I'm not talking about the silly ones with kids. There's a guy who has a tie tying video in Maine. He's just some financial services professional in Maine. He decided one day, I'm going to film myself putting on a tie. And it's become like 6 million hits or something. It's ridiculous. And he said in the interview that he thought he didn't find anything about tying ties, and he thought, people could really use this. I don't know how he's monetized that. I think maybe he's selling t-shirts or something. I don't know, but I was really struck by that. But the problem with YouTube is, I would say, realistically, 95%, if you hit any search term on YouTube, 95% of the videos that come up are going to be absolute garbage. Okay. They're going to be garbage for three, as I see it, 2 main reasons: technical quality and non-existent storytelling. Okay, technical quality, the technology is getting better, it's getting more accessible, it's getting more affordable, but even those really good image quality small cameras don't have good microphones on them, so you have a situation where the audio is just really bad. The video may look good, but you can't really hear what people are saying. There's a lot of background noise. The only true way to get great professional audio is you have to put a little microphone right here on somebody, or you have to float a boom microphone over their heads. And professionals have that technology available. They have it. A company like mine, I have that stuff. An average nonprofit is not going to have that video stuff on hand, and nor will they probably know how to use it. So I'm really making the case for the professional video content, professionally produced, will definitely get it noticed more, and you'll get more plays, and you'll drive people. It's all about, as Will's mantra is, you've got to drive people back to your home pages. It's all about all the social media, all the videos you post on YouTube. It's all about driving them back to your home page. And I think you have a better chance of doing that with video if it's professionally produced. The storytelling part of that is that all of us think we can make a compelling, well-crafted video that's going to grab people's attention, but the truth is it really takes a lot of skill. And I don't pretend to be someone who can go in and do open heart surgery, so no, I like other people to remind themselves that don't think you can go in and make a really slick video that really crafts your message in an emotionally engaging way in less than a minute. It doesn't happen that easily. You really need to call in the reinforcements for that. And if there's time permitting, I can show some examples too. I'll let other people talk. But as far as different types of approaches people are taking to video, for my clients that I've been using a lot of, and I can show examples if there's time, but I'm seeing that the 30-second TV spot is having a very robust life in the internet world as well. Sometimes a 30-second spot, in your cases, would be public service announcements. That can suffice, if it's well produced, on your homepage as a real attention-grabbing video that comes up immediately when people go to your homepage. Video profiles, I think, are a great thing. It's a little more in-depth. It profiles your organization. We're talking about in 1 to 3 minutes. If we could quickly bring up Allied Arts' website. I just, last fall, did a series of 13 videos. Allied Arts has 14 cultural partners, and 13 of them actually scheduled a shoot with me. The 14th one, just no matter what, we were never able to get a return phone call. But in any event, I worked with a team of people who used Google Calendar, okay? And this project never would have happened without Google Calendar because there were so many people involved. There was the person at each nonprofit. There was a field producer that was on my team. And there was an editor involved, and there was me kind of overseeing it all. So we produced actually Allied Arts Chattanooga, because there is another Allied Arts out there. Sorry about that. And I'll try to direct you to the page that has their cultural partners listed, and you can see how they link the videos. Rodney, so I got all these videos. We burned YouTube-friendly video files. I sent them to Rodney Van Valkenburg. Did I get that right? At Allied Arts, and he posted them, and we'll just see how they did that. What Rodney had done prior to having these videos professionally produced, he had done them himself with a flip camera. He'd gone around to each nonprofit and just did a talking head stand-up question and answer, and he knew that it wasn't doing that organization, it wasn't putting it in the best light to have something that had no lighting, no professional sound, no professional lighting. So local arts, please, up on the top. Oops. We need to go back.
Where's the back button?
Oh, yeah. All left blue arrow.
Sorry.
No
Shouldn't
problem.
ask someone to do things without doing.
Okay. No, we're good. I think we're a few clicks from where we want to be.
Okay. I think it'll pop up here.
Okay. No, just now the forward button. It was the right arrow.
Well, she's fine with that. Can I jump in?
Yeah,
just
sure.
just a couple sort of thoughts about why we're talking about this. How many of you are in social service industry? How many of you work for social service organizations? Okay, how many of you work for creative arts organizations? Okay, so one person. We've got academics. How many of you believe you're working in the service of the community? The community, be it large or small, is changing very rapidly around us. You agree with that? You sort of wake up one day and there's a new technology here, and there's a new tool over here. The reason I think it's important to have the conversation that we're having, and the reason that what Dave is talking about is important, is because if we don't track with what tools are coming online internally in our organizations and figure out how to use those properly, we're going to lose relevance as organizations. And we're going to see an increasing disconnect between the constituencies that we are trying to serve and the people that work inside of these organizations and institutions. What Dave's talking about is essentially a face and a voice for your organization. And if you don't develop that face and that voice that speaks to the people that you are trying to serve, or the people that you would like to serve, or the people that you are already serving, then you will lose them. And developing a consistent face and voice is also, I think, the reason that he's saying you need to work with a professional. You don't let anything out the door that hasn't gone through design. You don't do your own design, period. It's not okay to get something out there that people aren't going to respond to. You also don't do your own video if you don't know what you're doing. Get people in there. There are plenty of people in this community that are skilled and talented, that are able to come on and work with you, make it something that you can afford to do. We've got an incredible design community in this city. In fact, we've had outsiders come in from all over the country and do studies on Chattanooga, and they've said, you've got a lot of designers for a city your size. It's an amazing community. Get more, because they're going to make your city better. And pulling in the right talent does a couple things. It makes you look better, and it keeps the talent in this community, which we desperately need to do. So don't be intimidated by the big video that you know you need to do, or the design that you don't know how to use Photoshop or InDesign for. It's not about being intimidated, it's about being aware and knowing that these tools are out there and that there's talent out there to couple with the tools. Because if we don't do that, I think we're going to be in big trouble, because I very much believe that we have a mission in this community to make this place better. It's a great place now, but if we don't work very hard right now with a sense of urgency, then everything around us is going to change, and we're not going to have track with it and be prepared to do the service that we need to do. It's not scary, it's just an is. It's just one of those things. So what you're saying is absolutely right, and the tools are all around us to make these things happen, and I think working collaboratively, even across these institutions as they're represented in this room, is important to be able to represent to the broader Chattanooga community that they have access to the things that you're providing. So that said, I just think it's important to recognize why it is that this even matters.
Yeah, and so here's the page. We can maybe just click on one to see what happens, but maybe the choral arts might be a good one, just to watch video. So basically this is just going to link right to YouTube. The video is going to come up, it's going to play. It's a minute. We just have to click on play. Oh, that's okay. The sound, we'll get the idea just watching it. But so we've got their branding up front. We have their logo. That was one of the hardest parts of doing this, was just getting logos from each organization, because a lot of times those things aren't easily found depending on who's trying to look for it. So that's one thing I would suggest, is always keep the digital files of your logos handy, especially when you're trying to collaborate with professionals. So we did these things, they were done very low cost, but they basically summarize the mission of each organization and show you that organization in action. We couldn't actually film a performance. The timing, they weren't going to have another performance for a couple months, so the next best thing was we were able to film a rehearsal. We did some interviews, and we tied it back to, in the interviews, we tied it back to Allied Arts and why Allied Arts is an important partner for this organization, which is Choral Arts. So, so Allied Arts gets something out of this, and they got something out of it. And, there was no cost whatsoever to the nonprofit in this particular project. But, it reinforced the importance of Allied Arts to the community, and also there's an awareness piece that, hey, Choral Arts is out here, and we're doing these wonderful choral performances, and you all need to know about it. So,
where did that come from?
Oh, that's just after YouTube plays something, it just throws up in the video.
I was looking at Twin Baby Moose and Sprinkler.
I don't know why that happens either.
It's a little known Allied Arts project.
But I will say there's one other video that I think has use, and that is a slightly longer video that you can use for fundraising to go after major grants or major contributors. We're talking about a 5-minute range video. You can post it on YouTube and have it a private link if you just want to be able to send it to targeted funders. You can just send them a link. You can have it live on your web page. And those take a little bit more resources to produce. And that's when you have a little bit more time than a minute or 30 seconds, you could get even more emotionally engaged with your audience. And that's what it's about. Money is an emotional thing. To get people to part with that money, you really have to tug at the heartstrings. Video is a great way to do it.
What I would call that is building a digital narrative, because what we respond to is story, and we respond to the things that make us feel something, not just anymore the paragraph that we read that's got great copy about why we should support an organization. You really have to connect whoever it is that you're trying to reach, whether it be a donor or whether it be a person that you're trying to create a client and some relationship with. You have to make them understand that you know what they're feeling, you know how to serve them. And the way that we do that is through moving pictures. That's the way that we consume information as a society right now. That through music, almost everything that you're doing has to be multimedia or cross-platform in some way.
And there's a new term called transmedia storytelling, relatively new, that is becoming all the rage. Have you heard that term before? And that's pretty much what you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. The narrative continues across many different platforms. And I went to a whole seminar about transmedia storytelling, and one point the guy made is each platform has to tell the story in some unique way, so that otherwise, people will just think you're just repeating the same content over and over again. But it's like you tell a piece of the story of your organization's narrative on your website. You tell another piece on your YouTube video. You tell another piece on your Facebook page. You tell another piece on your, what am I leaving out here? Twitter, yes, of course.
As long as the trick there is to make sure it all is working, coming back together at some point, because too often, just the term new media tends to, kick things off the wrong way. It's not thinking of it as something different than your whole media package leads you down the wrong path. You want all that stuff to work together all the time. You want everything to be integrated. You want everybody who's contributing to your messaging to be on the same, working off the same playbook. And it's too easy to divide those departments and get, the new media department's doing their own thing and we're doing our thing. It's a big failing, and still in a lot of big companies, it's that way.
One thing I would say with that is that you can think about these, there's a little bit of a hierarchy in digital media, social media, new media, whatever you want to call it. So with Twitter, you have 140 characters max that you can use on that. So that's somebody's intro into an idea. That's a way for you to crystallize whatever it is you're trying to say in basically a soundbite. If you time a politician, and you time the length of time it takes to read aloud a tweet, you're going to find that they're exactly the same way. And that's really true. But you want to make sure when you're using Twitter, you're using hashtags and links appropriately. Facebook's a little bit more in-depth. That gives somebody the opportunity to get a little bit more information. If they like that, then they're going to go to your website. And if they're not captured there, then we're in big trouble. But you can do that in a variety of ways by putting the video online and having things that they can really connect to once they get there. But you want somebody to feel as though they can access you in the way that's most convenient for them.
That's probably the most important point of the day right there. You're reaching so many different audiences who, different age groups respond different ways to technology. I still know people who don't have email accounts, if you can believe that. So in my neighborhood, where I've tried and failed in the past to organize my neighborhood, it's because certain people will not adopt technology. There's no other way to reach them other than to walk up to their house and knock on the door. So that's one of the biggest challenges. How do you identify those audience segments and speak to them with the most effective medium?
All right, we'd like to open it up to questions from you all. Questions you have?
I have one. I know that I've seen recently that a lot of nonprofits are running these QR codes. I don't know if you guys have any experience with them and what software you use to generate. If you guys have any.
I have a. Do You haven't thought about
No,
that? I have
I mean,
some
I know
limited
what they are,
experience
but I
that
can't
it
give you
starts.
much
I don't even know what QR stands for, but I know what QR codes are because I work with a marketing agency doing a lot of. They specialize in healthcare marketing, and they're starting to put these QR codes on all of their print ads now, which drives people back to the website, which drives people ultimately to one of the videos I've produced for them. And example I'm thinking of is we just did a heart healthcare campaign, and we did patient testimonials. Testimonials are a very powerful way to reach an audience. In the case of healthcare marketing, you know, when you have somebody's life's been saved by Memorial Hospital's heart team, and they get on camera and they tell their story, that's very powerful stuff. And so they'll put a print ad in the Times Free Press. It has a QR code on it, and you can take your iPhone. There's an app. There's several apps.
Or your BlackBerry.
Yes,
It's
sorry.
just not have to
Okay.
be in
There are several free apps.
Or your Droid.
There are several free apps
That's
out
any
there
smartphone.
that if you have iPhones, I will tell you the apps that I use for QR codes. Which one do you? It may take me too long to figure out which one it is, but they're free. Just do a search. QR code reader is what you want, and you literally you pull up the app, point it to the QR code, that little box with, you know what we're talking about? It's a box with just dots on it. Just
Kinda
in
like
a weird,
a
kind of
jumbled
a
up
abstract
or
art
something.
pattern.
Yeah.
It looks like something Jackson Pollock
Similar
would
to a
have done.
UPC symbol.
Yes, and you just frame it using the photo feature or the camera feature on your iPhone, and you click, and it will, if it's a website they're pointing you to, it takes you to the website. It's usually a website they're pointing you
They're
to.
also called mobile tags.
That might be something different, I think, mobile tags.
Yes, that's, yeah.
It is different, or?
No, they're the same, yeah, it's not,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how, to answer your question though, I don't know how they're created, but I use them a lot. I mean, I have a magazine that I read and it's like, for more information on this, you know, do that, download this workout, and it takes it right to your, so I think it's definitely something that's going to be used a lot more in the future, because it's a way of getting a whole lot of information and compacting it down into this little code, and if you're interested, you just scan the code and it goes to your phone.
Well, and plus, if you've ever worked for an ad agency, one of the big frustrations for any kind of print media is, you know, the clients, you know, want everything to be trackable. So this really gives, you know, people a way to track something with, you know, with stuff that is not electronic, you know, which it's gonna be huge because more and more clients are gonna demand it, and we're gonna, you know, so we can see more and more.
Okay, any other questions?
Where can I get some good information about setting up donations via text?
You know, Constant Contact has a text mechanism. I don't know if they accept donations via text. I would just Google it, honestly. I haven't used that. One of the things I think is sort of worth mentioning, I'm just going to preemptively say this without a question, but we've got a smart grid that EPB has put in. Are y'all familiar with that? So we're the only city in the country where you can get the speed of internet that we've got here. And we have opportunities that are unparalleled across the country. And we have opportunities to take advantage of that as nonprofit organizations to do things that other nonprofit organizations in other cities are going to struggle to do. The folks at EPB were very forward thinking. And so there's fiber running across every street. And we are connected and will be connected in a very cool way. It won't be long before there will be wireless apps that will help emergency vehicles get where they need to go and know exactly what they're going to get when they get there. There are going to be ways that the police are going to use the EPB smart grid to figure out exactly what's going on in what corner, and it's all going to be wireless. So thinking about the technology that you have the opportunity to interface with and to use, know that you have this smart grid that you can tap into here that is going to offer some very real opportunity. And we should capitalize on it because we want Chattanooga to look good and to be the place that has the best services available for the people in our community.
Let me say something about the texting. I would look into whether or not it's going to be profitable, just because I'm sure there are fees associated with it on somebody's end, that somebody's going to charge a fee for that, you know, your phone carrier, whatever it may be. And I would guess, and I haven't done any of this, but I would guess that texting donations is probably only going to work for a very large national cause. You know, a presidential campaign, a Japanese, you know, tsunami relief, things like that. So I would ask around and see if there's any local organization that has used it. I mean, we're only local. We do not have a national entity. So for us, I don't think that's something that we are ever going to make a whole lot of money doing. We might make a couple $100, but you know, just look into that before you go down that road.
I just pulled up a website. This is N10, and it's the, what is it? Nonprofit technology, something or other. But anyway, this is a good resource for anyone like to research mobile text to give and so on. They are basically a voice for nonprofit technology, and they often have blogs, webinars, and so on new technology for the nonprofit community. And then also TechSoup.org, if you haven't been there. They're known for having low-cost software for nonprofits, but they also have blogs, resources, a chat room for technologies, and so on. It's a good resource.
Can I mention one more resource that we haven't touched on, and that's my old stomach ground. The Association for Visual Arts has a media lab where you can actually learn how to photograph. If you have a product associated with your nonprofit, they have a place where you can actually take photos of that. You can learn how to do video. Obviously, it's not going to be as professional as Dave's outfit, but at least you can maybe capture some footage of an event that you're doing to share with folks. But it's www.avarts.org.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think y'all have been super successful in getting a lot of people to follow your Facebook page. How many dropping on people to follow your page?
Let me say something about that. You know, there's been all this confusion about, do you have a page, do you create a cause, do you create a person that's called, and so we only have a cause, and the problem with that is that it's an app that you have to install, and then once you have the causes app, then you can see it, you can see other people's. Well, we got a notification about 6 months ago from Facebook saying that they are going to be integrating all causes into the general Facebook platform, and so whatever, if we posted something on our thing, it would then show up in all our followers' news feeds and all that kind of thing, which is really what we were looking for. The reason we have a cause is because you can actually donate through the cause. You can't donate through a fan page or any other kind of page. So the cause page, you can actually donate. Of course, they charge a fee, but you get, I think, all but 4 or 5% of it. But so we have had some success using the Causes app. But I'm envisioning that as soon as the causes actually integrate completely with Facebook, I think it's going to be an even better thing for the nonprofits that are on there. So I would just say, figure out what your strategy is. Don't have all of them, or just pick one and do that just for confusion's sake.
We just have a page. We started out with a cause, but we set it up in the page so that people can get the feeds and stuff. But it's just not had a huge amount of success getting people to like and follow it. We're trying to get a huge, I don't know if there's any campaigns out there that go like that.
I haven't heard of any. I would just say do something fun, do a contest, do a 30 days of some, just do something that's going to create some conversation or some buzz around it to get people there. I'm not a marketing person at all, so I don't know what to tell you to do, but I think that if you can do something that is, or do something where you, at an event, you get a free something if you like our page.
Yeah.
I was at the skating rink with my nephews, and if you liked their Facebook page, you got free skate rentals. So guess what? I like Hamilton Skate Rink. So, it's things like that that you can do to get people to like your page.
You just want to make sure it's, again, strategic so that you're not getting just, people trying to get free stuff.
Right.
But, at the end of the day. Yeah.
I got free stuff.
And as far as building a Facebook following, I'm curious, how many of you have Facebook pages up now? Great, so everybody. For my upstart nonprofit, we went from about 3 months ago having no Facebook page to today, and we have almost 600 or 700 followers, and I haven't done a thing. But one of my volunteers has, and I was blown away by in such a short period of time we could build up that kind of following. So that kind of, more than anything else, has made me a believer in Facebook. Because I really have been reluctant to get involved, and since then I've had Will helping me with my corporate page, and just in a very short time he's gotten that following up to probably close to 100 now, in probably less than 6 weeks. So it's here to stay, the Facebook thing. I mean, it's amazing. It came out of nowhere, and now it's a permanent fixture of our lives.
Until it's absorbed into something else.
Listen on the radio this morning that Barack Obama is touring Facebook today.
He did what?
Barack Obama is touring Facebook.
Really?
Is that on the radio?
One of the things that, just to answer your question, you need to make sure you're populating your Facebook page with fresh content, and that needs to be more than daily. It needs to be at least once a day, probably several times a day, because people are checking it from their desk, and you want to be a place where they're coming back to and getting interesting information. And I would also very strategically use email to drive people to that Facebook page. I would send an email to 10 friends, and I'd have everybody that works for you send an email to their 10 friends and say, please go to our Facebook page and like it.
And there's a sharing link option on most of these email software programs where you can put the Facebook link and the LinkedIn link and the Vimeo link and the YouTube link. And I've seen like 10 links on some of these emails, and that's all that cross-sharing you're talking about.
But you want to have a reason for them to stick around once they get there.
So if you don't have the resources to do that, better to avoid it altogether and do something you have time to do?
No, we've got a university, it sits over here, with like thousands of students. How many thousand students are there, Krista?
Almost 11.
So those guys, one of the biggest misses that we've got in this community right now is that our university isn't as connected as it could be to the larger community. Those kids need to stay here once they graduate. The only way to get them to do that is to ask them to be a part of what you're doing and to tell them that they are needed here. So I would march right over to the university and I'd figure out who it is and what department that I need to talk to in order to get their kids to come intern, to volunteer, to be part of an event, and that's the language they speak, hands down. So get them involved. Use people for what they're good for. I mean, if somebody has a skill, bring them to the table and ask them to use that skill. If that's not something you're good at, you shouldn't do it because you're not going to like it. You're going to get burned out on it fast. I would get someone who is all about it and they're thinking of things they want to put up and they understand how to use hashtags and they understand how to do links and put the video up. Because that would be fun for a lot of people.
That would be a great service of the Center of Nonprofits to help us figure out how to make those connections. And time is the huge issue.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, you're starting a new nonprofit while running a business. Time is a huge issue. And sometimes you get to the point of, it will take me so much time to go create that relationship, get an intern into place, teach them what I need them to do, help them understand the mission. The time factor is huge.
And here's my comeback to that is that your return on investment is going to be worth it. So even if you do a one-time relationship building effort with a particular professor or department, then that's going to be able to be something that gets the ball rolling, and it will require less and less time if it's done right on the front end.
Let me just add on to that to say that I think it is going to be imperative that every organization has somebody on staff that is extremely technologically savvy. And so if your organization doesn't have that person right now, then you need to be looking in the future to be adding somebody, not create a whole social media position or anything, because I don't think any of us have the money for that, but to eventually get somebody in your organization that is able to do these things, that is going to be on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's going to be able to be blogging if you want them to, or going to be able to be building websites for events. It's just more and more going to be where your organization is going to be needing to go, and so just think about that for future hiring.
All right, any other questions?
I just have one more thought, going back to the texting thing, because I had recent experience with that. Getting back to my neighborhood, I have different people from different generations living in my neighborhood, and I try to have communication set up with them for security reasons, because we do have crime issues in our neighborhood. So for years, I've volunteered and I've maintained the email list, and I've known for some time that it doesn't reach everybody because some people don't have email. But lately, one of the residents came back to me and said, look, I'll get your communications much faster if you text them to me. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. So I researched and found an app for the iPhone that I think it's called, again, I don't know what it's called, but I found one. It might have cost a few bucks, and it allows me to send a group text. So I just I sent out a mass email and I said, anybody who wants to be on the text list for our neighborhood to get alerts, security alerts from me, write me back. And so I got about 20 people who said yes. So I built a list in here, a text list, and I can just send that out if there's something going on in my neighborhood and I want my neighbors to know about it.
You can do it free on BlackBerry. In BlackBerry Messenger, you can set up groups there.
Okay.
For all things free, lady.
Have you noticed? I'm a very small nonprofit, and anything I can get for free, I do for free.
All right, any other questions? Well, this has been great for me. I mean, I've enjoyed this, so thank you all so much. And we all would invite you to fill out an evaluation. But thanks to all of you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be part of it. Thanks.